The first thing to do is to create a copy of this project. For this, you should go to glitch.com, and for this I'm going to open a new private window here so that I'm not logged into Glitch. Otherwise, I would be immediately logged in, and I wouldn't be able to show you the same thing. So what you need to do is go into this address, glitch.com. Notice, please, that the address is slightly different from the other one. So this one is glitch.com. This is where you edit your files. And then when you preview your files, the address is glitch.me. So it's slightly different. The preview is on a different domain. Okay, so you go to glitch.com and you should sign in. You should create an account. I'm not going to do that, but you should do it. It's easy to create an account. You can, for example, log in through Facebook or through Google or even through GitHub. If you have a GitHub account, you probably don't, but if you do, you can use it to log in. And why should you create an account? Well, because it's the only way to make sure that your work doesn't go away. Okay, so you need to create an account. You need to be logged in when you create a copy of the A-frame course. So I'm not going to sign in, but you should. Then you go again to that address that I showed you. So the A-frame course. .glitch.me, and in this web page you see here a button in the header of the site. This only appears in the first page. So this button says remix on Glitch. Remix is their way of saying to make a copy. Okay, so if you click here, basically you are copying the whole contents of that course and creating your own copy so that you can then modify at will. Now, the first thing you should do after you remix is that you should change the name of the project, because the name of the project is actually then used on the domain, on the preview. And the name is here at the top left. You should click here once, and then this doesn't look like it's editable, but it is. So you can just delete the name of the project. And what I suggest that you do is that you use your own name. I'm going to write my first and last names. I suggest that you use your name because it will make it easier for me then to know which project belongs to whom, and it will make it easier to, when you need help, I can more easily identify who you are. But you don't need. If you don't want to use our name, you can use a different name, and I'll somehow be able to understand. So you should change your name, otherwise it will have a random name that Glitch assigns. The other thing that you should do on this panel that pops up when you click on the name of the project, you should uncheck this checkbox, refresh app on changes. In my experience, this doesn't really work well. It seems like a good idea. When you change something, the preview window will automatically refresh, but it doesn't work very well. It's a source of frustrations. So you should really uncheck this. It's easier to do things manually, to refresh the browser manually. So after you have done this, if you have done this after you signed in, then you have your own copy of the project and you are ready to edit the examples and create new examples and new exercises. Let me just get back here to the chapter to make sure that I go through the steps as they are listed here, so that when you want to do this on your own, it's easier. Just a small note, by the way, some of the pictures that I have here on the chapter, they are pictures taken on an older version of Glitch, so they are not, there are slight differences, but I don't think they're enough to cause confusion, so I didn't bother to update them. So remix, that's done. Change the name, that's done. An important thing is now that you should also make sure you have done and that you understand how to do is, and I'll reopen again the window, is that eventually you will, after a day, for example, you will close your browser and you will sign out of Glitch. You need to know, you need to understand how to get back to your project. So what you should do after you do these initial steps is you should sign out. Here I can't sign out because I haven't signed in, but I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to click here on the back to Glitch button. So if you sign out and then you can go to glitch.com, so you're not signed in, you don't see your project. So you should again sign in just to make sure that you understand how to do these steps. Then later on you should again sign in, and after you sign in you'll see a front page that's a bit different from this one, but you'll see something like this. You'll see a section with your projects, and the only project that you should see is the one that you just created and renamed. So in my case, I see this project called Jorge Cardoso, my first and last names. And here you see that there's an edit button. And this is where you need to click to get back to your project. So I'm going to click there. And I'm back at the editor in my original project. Okay, so just make sure that you know how to do this so that you don't lose your work and you know how to get back day after day. Going back here to the chapter to follow the steps. So log in again, edit. Okay, so now let's, we still have a few minutes. Let's see what's in there. What's in the editor of this Glitch platform. So this is essentially a file editor, an online file editor. And there are basically two main areas. An area here on the left, which is this panel here, and the area on the right, which is the largest area. And so this area on the right is actually an editor. If you click on any file on the left panel, that file will open on the right side. And then you can just, depending on the file type, you may need to click a button here that says Markdown or not. When you're editing HTML files, you won't see that button, it's simpler. But for these files, this .md, this is Markdown, which is a special text format. Then you need to click the button to see the raw text. But it's simply an editor. You just write, just type in there. Just click on the cursor where you want to start writing and just write. Now, what do you have on the left side? So the left side is basically a file explorer. So it shows you all the files that you have on your project. Now, because you have copied my A-frame course, you will see all the files that are needed for the contents of the course. So let's see what you have here, and I'll just point out where you need to concentrate, because most of these you'll ignore, most of these files. So starting at the top, you have a special folder called assets. This is special because Glitch he understands this folder a bit differently from the other ones. So in this folder, you don't actually create files, you just upload files. So the assets is a folder for images and videos. And you just upload, you can just drag an image file from your computer to the browser, to this area, and it will automatically upload it to the assets of Glitch. And here in the assets, you will see exactly this as I have here. And you can see that there are lots of images because all the images for the various chapters are here in the assets. And also images used in some of the examples for the virtual reality examples, they are also in these assets. In a moment, I'll show you how to use these images. So don't worry that there are lots of images because it really doesn't matter. Now, you will be using these assets. So in a moment, I'll show you a bit in more detail how to do it. Then, keeping on the left side, there's a folder called CSS. You don't need to change anything here, you don't need to create anything here. You should also not delete anything. These are the CSS, the style sheet files for the course website. So in order for things to be laid out correctly, in correct colors, etc., these files are needed. You won't need to edit them for your examples or for your exercises. Then there's a folder. This is an important folder called examples. And you can see that you can just open a folder by clicking the small arrow on the left side. And you can see that there are lots and lots of examples. These examples, they are HTML files, so they are regular web pages. And they are all linked in the chapters that you can read and that we will go one by one later on. But why do you need to know this folder? Because in many cases, in many exercises, what I ask you to do is to change an example. And the way to do this is, the easiest way to do this is to locate the example. So each example, you know, has a number. You can see here a number and a name. You can just locate the example, and then you can just duplicate the file so that you keep the original example and you create a new copy that you can change at will without worrying that you'll damage anything in the original example. I'll show you in a minute also how to do this, how to duplicate and move to the exercises folder. Then there's an exercises folder. This one only has 2 files, only demo files. This is where you should put your own exercises. As I ask you to do them in the end of each chapter, you should create here the new files, and then you will send me the links to these files. Then there are 2 folders that you should ignore. The GS folder, this is for JavaScript files. Again, these are needed for the course, for the menus to work correctly, etc. You don't need to worry about the contents of this folder. You should also not delete anything. If you do, that's okay. Just let me know and I can fix it for you. Something similar for the templates folder. Don't need to change anything here. Don't need to delete anything. Just ignore these folders. Then after, at the bottom of this section, this panel, you have files. So these ones at the top are folders. Folders are identified by the / at the end of the name. If something doesn't have that slash at the end of the name, then it's a file. It's a file like any other. You can just click, but you can ignore all these files because these are the chapters. written in Markdown. So you will read the chapters not through the source code, but through the preview that I have shown earlier. So this is the main structure of this editor. Just one last note. Very important thing is this file server.js. This one you should try to make sure that you don't change or delete, because this is really necessary for the for this course to work correctly. Okay, so let's see how we can make some changes to that code, to some of the examples, and then see the results. Now, for this, I'm going to edit the projects. I'm leaving this preview window, and I'm going to my Glitch account and basically do what you have done. And so now what we can do, for example, we have a number of examples here in that folder. We can expand the folder, and let's try to make a change to one of these files. And for example, let's make a change to this first example. Now we could change the code of this example directly here. But what I suggest that you do is to create always a copy of the file so that you leave the original example intact. So let's do this. Let's imagine this is an exercise. And so we will want to make a copy of the example and put it inside the exercises folder. So how do we do this? We can just click on the three dots next to the file we want to duplicate, and then select duplicate. And now here we have to make sure that we enter the correct name. So the first thing we can do is just to delete the word copy that Glitch appends at the end of the file name. Another thing we need to make sure is that we change the folder name. So instead of examples, let's write exercises. Also, please be careful with this. Try to write exercises always in the same way, and try to make sure that you don't make any writing mistake, because otherwise it will be difficult to get the proper link to that exercise. So now we will put this file inside the exercises folder. In this case, we can leave the rest of the file name as it is. And I'll just hit OK. And I'll just hit overwrite. In my case, I already had a file there. So now I can go to the exercises folder, and the file, a copy of that example is there. Now we can change this. For example, the change that I suggested that you do in this chapter is to change this URL. So this URL is for a picture that we have in the assets. Let's put another picture in the assets and then paste the URL here. So what we need for that is just to go to the assets and just pick a photo, any image from our computer. I'm just going to select a random picture and just drag to the assets. It may take a while depending on the size of the file, and new files are always at the end, so at the bottom. So you need to scroll down the assets, and this is the file that I uploaded. Now, to get the URL of this file, of a file in the assets, we need to click on it, and then to click on this copy button. And after we have done that, we can go back to our exercise. And now I can select here the part that I want to change. In this case, it's the source for that image. So I can just delete and paste a new one. So now that we have changed the file, but we are currently only seeing source code, we want to check how it the preview. We want to preview the resulting, in this case, the resulting 3D environment. So how do we preview a file? Well, it's easy. We just go here on this, in the top, we see a show button. We can just click there. It will drop down with two options. And the one that I suggest that you always use is show in a new window. This will open a new tab. And it will open a new tab by default on the index file of the site. And the index file of the site, as you see, it's the course contents. How do we get to one specific exercise that we have just created? The easiest way is to go to the bottom of the left menu. There's an entry called List of Examples and Exercises. And this page, this is a dynamic page. It will always show you the contents of those two folders, of the examples folder and of the exercises folder. So when you add a new exercise, it will appear here on the right side. And if you click on the link, it will open a new tab, and here you'll see the results. Another way that you could just open the preview for your exercise would just be to write the URL manually, because it's always on the same, with the same format. Just in my case, aframe-course. In your case, it would be the name of your project, then .glitch.me, and then /exercises, and then / and the name of the file corresponding to that exercise.